Indeed, we sent Nuh to his people, and he stayed among them 1,000 years minus 50 years, and the flood seized them while they were wrongdoers. Surah Al-Ankabut 29:14. Can you fathom 1,000 years? A millennium of calling, of patience, of relentless striving against the tide of human folly? What depths of devotion must one possess to endure such a burden? And what colossal transgression must a people commit to incur a wrath so profound it reshapes the very face of the earth? Centuries before the final prophecy, long before the sands of Arabia would bear witness to the dawn of Islam, in an age shrouded by the mists of antiquity, there flourished a people. Their domain, believed by many to be the fertile lands of ancient Mesopotamia, cradled between the life-giving rivers, was a tapestry of verdant plains and bountiful harvests. Allah, in His boundless grace, had bestowed upon them an abundance unmatched, fertile soil yielding crops in season, livestock thriving in vast herds, and a climate that fostered prosperity. They built magnificent structures, their cities rising as testaments to their ingenuity and the wealth of their resources. They were strong, skilled, and outwardly blessed, their lives flowing like the rivers that sustained them. Among this thriving populace, there arose a man whose lineage traced back to the noble son of Adam, Seth. His name was Nuh, a figure of profound integrity and quiet contemplation. He was known for his wisdom, his gentle demeanor, and a deep-seated connection to the remnants of monotheistic truth passed down through generations. Before the great trial, Nuh, A.S., lived a life of piety, observing the natural world and recognizing in its intricate design the singular power of the Creator. He saw the blessings, the sustenance, the very breath of life as direct manifestations of Allah's mercy. His early life was one of humble servitude and quiet devotion, a stark contrast to the burgeoning heedlessness that would soon consume his people. Initially, these people, though immersed in their prosperity, were not entirely lost. There was a memory, however faint, of the truth. They acknowledged, in some form, the existence of a higher power. Their forebears, though they had fallen from the purity of Tawhid, had not yet fully embraced overt idolatry. The blessing was not merely material, it was also the lingering spark of faith, the potential for guidance that still flickered within their hearts. They were a people of immense potential, given every opportunity to thrive, to live in gratitude, and to worship their benefactor. Their strength lay in their unity and their shared heritage. They were blessed with long lifespans, allowing for generations to witness the unfolding of their collective narrative, for wisdom to be accumulated, and for errors to be corrected. However, as the generations passed, a subtle, insidious shift began to take hold. Prosperity, that seemingly benign gift, became a veil. Their hands, once raised in prayer, grew busy with the fruits of their labor, and their hearts, once humble, swelled with a dangerous pride. The memory of the true God began to fade, replaced by a growing veneration for those who had lived among them, figures revered for their piety and leadership in bygone eras. These were men of great stature and righteousness, like Wad, Suwa, Yaghuth, Ya'uk, and Nasser. Their images were initially crafted as reminders, a means to spur devotion, to emulate their virtues. But little did they know, this reverence, unchecked, would morph into something far more perilous. The whispers of Shaitan, subtle at first, encouraged their descendants to go a step further, to elevate these pious souls into deities, to worship them, to seek intercession through them, and eventually to completely forsake the worship of the one true God. The once clear spring of monotheism became muddied by the streams of polytheism. The gratitude that should have flowed towards Allah was diverted to fabricated idols. The people, blinded by their material success and deluded by the devil's whispers, began to sink deeper into a mire of innovation and polytheism, unaware of the chasm opening beneath their feet. Their blessings, instead of drawing them closer to their Creator, pushed them further away. The stage was set, not for their continued ascendancy, but for a dramatic confrontation. Nuh, A.S., observing this gradual descent, felt a profound unease in his soul. He saw the seeds of destruction being sown in the very prosperity they cherished. A storm was brewing, not of rain, but of divine indignation, and he, a solitary beacon in a world veering off course, was about to receive a monumental task. The silence of contemplation would soon be replaced by the thunder of truth. The unease Nuh, A.S., felt soon transformed into a divine mandate. The call came, not with a clap of thunder or a blinding flash, but with the subtle, undeniable clarity of revelation. Allah, the All-Wise, that had chosen Nuh, A.S., to be his messenger to a people lost in the darkness of shirk. Nuh, A.S., began his mission with the tender heart of a father addressing wayward children, with the unwavering conviction of a prophet. His message was simple, direct, and universal. Indeed, we sent Nuh to his people, and he said, "O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a tremendous day." Surah Al-A'raf, 759. He called them to Tawhid, to abandon their man-made gods, and return to the pure worship of Allah, the Creator, the Sustainer. He reminded them of the blessings they enjoyed, arguing that gratitude demanded devotion to the one who bestowed them. He warned them of the dire consequences of their idolatry, speaking of a terrifying punishment. His days became a relentless cycle of calling in public gatherings, in private conversations, at markets, by rivers, wherever he could find an ear willing to listen. He presented clear signs, the order of the cosmos, the cycles of life and death, the very food they ate, all pointing to the oneness of Allah. But the people's response was swift and steeped in arrogance. Their prosperity had not only dulled their spiritual senses, but had inflated their egos. They looked at Nuh, A.S., a man like themselves, with disdain. They mocked his simplicity, questioned his authority, and scoffed at his warnings. The eminent among his people said, "Indeed, we see you in clear error." Surah Al-A'raf, 760. They accused him of seeking personal gain, of wanting to establish dominion over them. Their leaders, the wealthy and influential among them, led the charge against him. They argued that if Allah had intended to send a prophet, He would have sent an angel, not a mere mortal. They dismissed His message as old fables, inherited from their ancestors, and refused to abandon the traditions of their forefathers, clinging desperately to the worship of Wad, Suwa, and the others. And they said, "Never leave your gods, and never leave Wad or Suwa or Yaguth and Ya'uk and Nasr." Surah Nuh, 71:23. Their arguments were flimsy, their defiance profound. When Nuh, A.S., appealed to their reason, they retorted with insults. When he warned them of the day of judgment, they challenged him to bring forth the promised torment. Their mockery grew louder, their sneers more pronounced. Ibn Kathir, in his tafsir, explains that their leaders saw Nuh as a threat to their established power and influence, and thus worked tirelessly to turn the masses against him, fearing that if the people embraced monotheism, their own authority built upon idolatry would crumble. Nuh, however, persevered. He persisted for centuries, perhaps 950 years, as indicated in Surah Al-Ankabut 29:14, calling them day and night, openly and secretly. He never despaired, even as his small band of followers remained few, consisting primarily of the poor and the weak. For the elite considered it beneath them to follow a man like Nuh, and the eminent among his people who disbelieved said, "We do not see you but as a man like ourselves, and we do not see you followed except by those who are the lowest of us at first glance, and we do not see in you over us any merit. Rather, we think you are liars." Surah Hud 11:27. The rejection grew more intense with each passing generation. They plugged their ears, pulled their garments over their faces, and ran away from his calls. They threatened him, sought to harm him, and even mocked his very existence. Despite Nuh's immense patience and tireless efforts, the hearts of his people hardened like stone. They had squandered Allah's blessings, turned away from his guidance, and pushed their messenger to the brink. Finally, after an era of unrelenting rejection, Nuh raised his hands to the heavens, his heart heavy with grief, but resolute in faith. The patience that had spanned centuries had reached its divine limit. He cried out to his Lord, acknowledging the futility of further calls and the depths of their depravity. He said, "My Lord, indeed I invited my people to truth night and day, but my invitation has not increased them except in flight. And indeed every time I invited them that you might forgive them, they put their fingers in their ears, covered themselves with their garments, persisted, and were arrogant with great arrogance. Then I invited them publicly. Then I announced to them publicly, and I confided to them secretly. And I said, ask forgiveness of your Lord. Indeed, he is ever forgiven. He will send rain from the sky upon you in abundance, and give you increase in wealth and children, and make for you gardens, and make for you rivers. What is the matter with you that you do not attribute to Allah? Do grandeur while He has created you in stages." Surah Nuh 71 verse 5 to 14. Nuh said, "My Lord, do not leave upon the earth from among the disbelievers an inhabitant. Indeed, if you leave them, they will mislead your servants and not beget except 7 wicked, disbelieving offspring." Surah Nuh 71:26 to 27. The plea was heard. The time for mercy had passed, and the hour of divine judgment was at hand. Nuh had delivered the final warning. The long night of their rebellion was about to break into the terrifying dawn of retribution. The prayer of Nuh, the culmination of centuries of tireless effort and bitter rejection, was answered. The final warning had been issued not in words, but in the cessation of Allah's patience. The people, in their boundless arrogance, were oblivious to the impending cataclysm. They continued their mockery, their idolatry, and their oppression, oblivious to the fact that their time was running out. Then came the extraordinary command to Nuh, He was to build an ark, not a small boat for a river, but a colossal vessel, capable of carrying not only his family and a select few believers, but also pairs of every living creature. This command, delivered amidst the dry lands, far from any significant body of water, was a final test, a final sign of Allah's absolute power and Nuh's unwavering faith, and construct the ark under our observation and our inspiration, and do not address me concerning those who have wronged. Indeed, they are to be drowned. Surah Hud 11:37. As Nuh, A.S., began constructing the massive vessel, his people's mockery intensified. They laughed at him, calling him a madman, a carpenter, a visionary building a ship in the desert. And every time an eminent party of his people passed by him, they ridiculed him. He said, "If you ridicule us, then we will ridicule you just as you ridicule, and you are going to know to whom will come a humiliating punishment and upon whom will descend an enduring punishment." Surah Hud 11:38-39. Their taunts echoed across the plains, but Nuh, A.S., fortified by divine instruction, ignored their derision. He continued his arduous task day after day, year after year, with the help of his small band of believers. The wood was cut, the planks joined, the decks built, the hull sealed. The sheer scale of the undertaking was a testament to his prophetic resolve. When the ark was finally complete, the heavens began to weep. The first drops of rain fell gentle at first, then growing into a relentless downpour. But this was no ordinary rain. Until when our command came and the oven gushed forth water, we said, "Load therein 2 of every kind, the pair and your family, except those against whom the word has gone forth, and whoever has believed, and none believed with him, except a few." Surah Hud 11:40. The earth itself began to weep. From every fissure, from every crack, water gushed forth, as if the very ground was unleashing its subterranean oceans. The oven gushing forth, tanur, is understood by scholars of tafsir to refer to a specific sign, perhaps a well-known spring or an unusual geological phenomenon, signaling the beginning of the deluge, or metaphorically, the boiling point of the earth's wrath. The floodwaters rose with terrifying speed, engulfing fields, then houses, then hills. The disbelievers, who had scoffed for centuries, now faced the horrifying reality of Nuh's warnings. Panic seized them. They ran to high ground, clinging to trees, scrambling up mountains. Their false gods, the idols they had worshipped, offered no salvation. They cried out, not to Allah, but to each other, in desperate, futile pleas. Nuh, A.S., called out to his son, who, despite his father's relentless efforts, had remained among the disbelievers. And Nuh called to his son, who was apart from them. He said, "O my son, come aboard with us, and do not be with the disbelievers." But he said, "I will take refuge on a mountain to protect me from the water." Nuh said, "There is no protector today from the decree of Allah, 11, except for he upon whom he has mercy." And the waves came between them, and he was among the drowned. Surah Hud 11:42-43. This heartbreaking scene underscores the absolute nature of Allah's judgment and the futility of any human attempt to defy His will. Even the bond of father and son could not transcend the chasm of disbelief. The waters continued to rise, reaching heights unimaginable. The mountains, once symbols of permanence, became mere ripples on a vast, churning ocean. The sky poured forth with unceasing fury, and the earth erupted with endless springs. So we opened the gates of the heaven with torrential water, and we caused the earth to burst with springs, and the waters met for a matter already predestined. Surah Al-Qamar 54:11-12. The waves, towering like mountains, consumed everything in their path. The cities, the magnificent structures, the accumulated wealth of centuries, all were swept away in a torrent of divine wrath. Not a single disbeliever was spared. The entire generation that had rejected Allah's clear signs and mocked His messenger was annihilated. The destruction was total, absolute. It was a cleansing of the earth, a purification from the pervasive idolatry and defiance that had corrupted humanity for so long. They perished because of their pervasive arrogance, their refusal to acknowledge the truth, and their obstinate rejection of the one true God. Their fundamental cause of destruction was shirk, the unforgivable sin of associating partners with Allah, coupled with their relentless mockery and persecution of His prophet. The final turning point was their explicit demand for the punishment, their challenge to Allah to bring forth what Nuh, AIS, warned them of, sealing their fate. After the earth was cleansed and the purpose of the flood fulfilled, Allah commanded, "And it was said, O earth, swallow your water, and O sky, withhold your rain. And the water receded, and the affair was accomplished. And the ark settled on Mount Judah. And it was said, Away with the wrongdoing people." Surah Hud 11:44. The waters receded, revealing a transformed world, scarred but purified. The ark settled, a beacon of faith and the rebirth of humanity, on Mount Judah. From this vessel, Nuh, AS, and the few believers disembarked carrying the torch of monotheism into a new era. The legacy of the people of Nuh became a solemn warning, a stark reminder of Allah's justice and the terrifying consequences of disbelief. Centuries passed, but the lesson remained etched in the annals of time, a testament to the ultimate outcome of defiance against the Creator. The echoes of Nuh's story resonate even today, transcending the boundaries of time and geography. This monumental narrative, recounted in vivid detail in the Quran, serves not merely as a historical account, but as a profound source of timeless lessons for humanity. The story of Nuh, AS, holds immense significance in the time of Prophet Muhammad, PBUH. It was revealed to comfort the Prophet, peace be upon him, during his own arduous mission in Makkah, where he faced relentless mockery, rejection, and persecution from his people, much like Nuh, peace be upon him. Allah reminded him that he was not alone in his struggle, and that perseverance, even in the face of overwhelming disbelief, would ultimately lead to divine victory. Just as Nuh, AS, endured for nearly a millennium, the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, was encouraged to remain steadfast, knowing that Allah's promise to His messengers is always true. Furthermore, the narrative served as a stark warning to the disbelievers of Makkah, particularly the Quraysh, who had similarly turned away from Tawhid and embraced idolatry. The fate of Nuh's people was presented as a clear precedent, a chilling reminder of the consequences of rejecting a prophet sent by Allah. The Quran repeatedly mentions the stories of past nations to illustrate this universal principle. And how many a generation have we destroyed before them who were better in goods and outward appearance? Surah Maryam 1974. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself often referred to the stories of previous prophets, including Nuh, peace be upon him, to emphasize the importance of monotheism and obedience to Allah. For instance, in a hadith narrated by Abu Huraira, Sahih Bukhari, Volume 4, Book 55, Hadith 559, the Prophet, PBUH, describes the Day of Judgment, where people will seek intercession from various prophets, and Nuh, AS, will be among them. indicating his high status and the significance of his story in the eschatological narrative of Islam. The enduring legacy of Nuh's nation in Islamic teachings is multifaceted. Their story is a powerful testament to the dangers of shirk, polytheism, and the gradual insidious nature of deviation from pure monotheism. It highlights how the veneration of righteous individuals, if unchecked, can devolve into outright idol worship. Scholars like Imam al-Qurtubi emphasize that the names of the idols Wad, Suwa, Yaguth, Ya'uk, and Nasr, mentioned in Surah Nuh 71:23, were originally names of pious men whose images were later worshipped, serving as a perpetual warning against excessive reverence that leads to deification. For modern Muslims, the lessons from Nuh, AS, and his people are profoundly relevant. We live in an age characterized by materialism, the arrogance of technological advancement, and a pervasive disregard for divine law. The story cautions us against allowing prosperity to blind us to our Creator. It warns against the allure of worldly success that can lead to spiritual bankruptcy. The people of Nuh, AS, were blessed with abundance, yet it became a source of their downfall as they attributed their success to their own ingenuity or to fabricated deities rather than to Allah. This resonates with contemporary challenges where economic power or scientific progress can lead to a sense of self-sufficiency that breeds arrogance and a rejection of divine guidance. Furthermore, the story underscores the importance of perseverance and calling to truth, even when faced with overwhelming opposition. Nuh, AS' centuries-long struggle is a beacon of hope and a model of patience for those who strive to uphold Allah's word in a world often hostile to it. It teaches us not to despair in the face of disbelief, but to continue inviting to good with wisdom and beautiful admonition. The tragic fate of Nuh's son also serves as a poignant reminder that faith is a personal choice, and lineage or familial ties cannot guarantee salvation. It emphasizes that the ultimate bond is that of faith, and that obedience to Allah transcends all other relationships. Ultimately, the story of Nuh, AS, is a powerful reminder of Allah's justice and His mercy. While His justice is absolute against those who persistently reject His truth and oppress His messengers, His mercy is boundless for those who believe and strive in His path. Indeed, in their stories is a lesson for those of understanding. Never was it a narration invented, but a confirmation of what was before it, and a detailed explanation of all things and guidance and 12 mercy for a people who believe. 13. Surah Yusuf 12:111. This enduring wisdom extracted from Nuh's story compels us to reflect on our own lives. Are we truly grateful for Allah's blessings? Are we heedless of His signs? Are we firm in our faith and steadfast in calling to truth? The flood of Nuh, AS, was a physical deluge, but the spiritual floods of heedlessness, materialism, and disbelief continue to threaten humanity. Only by clinging to the ark of Tawhid and the Sunnah of His prophets can we navigate these turbulent waters and find salvation in the boundless mercy of Allah.